Hi, I'm on this link here, but I'm the only person, so I'm assuming some. I know. No, 3 minutes and I'm the only person. I mean, seems odd. Okay. 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 Bye. Something's wrong. Hello.
Hello, am I audible?
Hi, Lena.
Hello.
Hi, Duncan.
Hello, Peter. How are you? You don't hear me? Now you do. How about that?
Now I'm audible.
Question is, can you hear me? Not whether I could hear you.
Yeah, no, it was my sound setting was. I play Scrabble on this, and the Facebook Scrabble set has just terrible music and noise every time you make a move.
Oh, and so you tune it out. I see. Got it.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. It's actually not sharp. Hey, Bruce. Hello.
Hey, guys.
Lena.
Bruce.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hi, Nanette.
People to hug.
It's good to see you all. I missed you all.
Oh, good to see you too. Is that you, Lena?
Yeah, it's me. I'm out and about, so I'll be listening in.
But not seeing, we won't see you. Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could. This is my, hi, everyone. I'm
Hi.
on
Better.
my,
Oh, there we go.
hi. I'm on a walk right now.
Hi.
This is my only chance for a walk today. So,
Oh, that's great to see you. Welcome, Subi. Subi is a new member.
Hello,
Hmm.
Subi.
Yeah.
Subi,
Hello,
where are you?
I'm a law student. I'm from India.
Are you in India or are you in the US?
No, I'm in India.
Ah, fantastic. Wonderful.
Welcome, welcome. Hello, everyone. We'll just give people a few more minutes to assemble before we start.
Elaine, you're shadowed. Can we see your face? Turn on a light. And you're muted, but I mean.
So you're inaudible, invisible. One thing that helps if you don't have a light on your face is to not have a light behind you. That's what I've noticed. The camera gets all confused.
Mm. Oh, that's a good point.
Probably going to be, oh, maybe that's Friday.
It's a little bit of an art, the Zoom lighting art. I know that.
It is.
It's a dark room I'm in anyway.
Mm.
Hello, Bonnie. Welcome. And Brad
Good to see all of you, Ken.
and Kim. Yeah. All right. I think maybe one more minute and then we can start.
How's your baby, Elaine?
He's great, Bruce. Thanks. He's been joining some of the recent meetings, so he's getting involved.
Maybe we'll see him. That's so much fun.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. It just gets better unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Welcome everyone who just joined. We'll be starting shortly. I guess we should start now. What do you all think? Yeah. So Elaine, okay.
Hi, Nanette. Sorry, I hadn't realized.
Oh yeah, that's right. So do you want to kick it off, Elaine?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great, great.
Yeah, welcome everybody. And I think I'm just going to turn over to Peter first to say a little bit about PISLAP, and then I'm happy to start things off with the questions that have been shared on email about how, yeah, we're approaching this kind of spiritually infused approach to law, and what each of you might be doing on that and what challenges you're experiencing. So Peter, do you want to start, and then I'll come back again.
Elaine, just to introduce this is Elaine Quinn, a member of our executive committee, editor of The Conscious Lawyer, and in Ireland. I don't know what the town is that you're in. What is the town?
It's called Longford, and if any of you know it, I'll be extremely impressed, because not many Irish people know it. So,
all right. Well, I'm Peter Gable. I'm in San Francisco. I'm just in a corner that's closest to the internet connection, so as to make the Zoom connection as good as possible. Although I'm actually crammed in a little corner here. It looks better behind me to you than it actually is in my cramped little space here. So I'll just say many of you I know well, and some of you are new, but I'll just say a word or two about PISLAP, a few words. That we are the project for integrating spirituality, law, and politics. And our aspiration is all of us who have been working in this for some time, bring an open-hearted and loving attitude toward who we want to be in the world and what we believe is possible in other people. And the legal system that we are enveloped by is very much the opposite of that. It's highly individualistic, competitive, adversarial framework for defining law and justice. It links justice to a very limited notion of justice, which is the vindication of rights, as opposed to a form of law that would be fostering a culture of justice informed by the inherent goodness of human beings, and trying to bring into being a world that manifests that goodness, which requires connecting the heart and the head. It requires a much deeper engagement with the resolution of social conflict in a healing and open, as I said, open-hearted direction. So that's what, to my sense of what PISLAP is trying to make happen. And I don't know how everybody feels about this. It may take a few hundred years to bring this into being, but it begins with the first intense step, and that's what we think we're making. Maybe not the first, one of the first intense steps in that direction. Okay, so there we are, Elaine.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I just wanted to start with, this is definitely something that I've been thinking about myself for a long time. And I think the question, I don't have the questions in front of me that were in the email, but anyway, I think all of us probably have a different approach to those kind of questions and a different idea of what spirituality and law looks like, depending on our background or education and what type of law we practice, etc. But for me, at the moment, at least, I think the questions change all the time as well. But I think at the moment, it's really this kind of idea of fear and love, at a very fundamental level. And that's what Peter is talking to. And I was thinking about this recently in relation to music, actually. So I was just going to share a little story that kind of brings it alive for me. And that is that I learned piano when I was about 7 years old from a very strict Irish Catholic nun. And, I was sent along to her, and I think I would say I liked music, loved music even at that age. But she was extremely strict. We had to go there 6 days a week. She used a cane, we were basically, music was hammered into us. We learned classical pieces. We learned pages and pages of theory. We had to practice for an hour every day. I think all of us were terrified of this nun. I certainly was, and you think about these things now, and I remember feeling very contracted, very nervous, very scared, going into her. And of course, all of us got, I think, 80% and above in our exams. That's why parents at the time loved her, but it was just learning through fear. And I didn't remember any of the pieces that I learned years later, and in fact had a kind of a difficult relationship with music and the piano for a long time, even though I love the piano, and I have tried since to learn again. But incredibly, even though I did all the grades, couldn't remember anything years later. And, I find myself reflecting on what would it have been like if at that age I had been sent to a teacher who was this kind of loving presence at its most fundamental, and she gave me that creative freedom. She encouraged me. She allowed me to find my own way with some guidance, and I wonder how that would have been different. And, for me, I do see kind of these issues in law in a similar way because of my own journey, because even though I've always known law is right for me, I just knew it, from day one qualification, even though everyone was saying, you'll be a great lawyer and, you did well in the exams and all that kind of thing. It was just pure fear, kind of an anxiety. It was always this sense of like having to squeeze myself into a body of rules, and you can't do this and you can do this, and you might make a mistake and you might be sued, what if you get it wrong? There was never a sense of just being able to kind of embrace my own creativity and make a mistake, or follow my own innate sense of what's right in a situation. And, I would say, obviously, most human beings, certainly can speak for myself, I want something to move towards resolution, like towards a sense of peace, towards a sense of goodness for the client. So if you have that at your fundamental, as your base, and you're moving towards that, can you trust that you will, in your own way, you will find the solution? And I would say also that I naturally do kind of move things into a logical, structured way. So, you have those skills, those abilities. I think as lawyers, we have those. But I think in law, it feels like, you know, all this structure and rules and you can and you can't comes first. And so you're trying to channel yourself into that first, rather than letting that come after, you know. I'm not sure if this is really making sense, but yeah, this is the feeling tone of it, you know, because I think these questions for me, it's like, it's not intellectual, it's not even emotional, or at least that's part of it, but it's like very physical, it's like vibrational, it's like this sense of fear and love. And I just think law is just so infused in this fear-based realm, and like we have to individually, yeah, like, you know, go deeply into what that feels like in our bodies, and how do we open up to a more loving way. And yeah, so that was kind of, I know we shared the piece that Peter wrote a few years ago, and just one of the sentences that he says, which kind of speaks to this, is like, law is not a body of rules or any other such thing like entity, but rather a culture of justice whose ethical legitimacy depends upon how deeply and sincerely it enables us to carry out the work of justice, of love, correcting that which revolts against love. And yeah, I just think that really speaks to like the loving presence teacher, or the strict, like, you have to do it this way, you can't make a mistake, you know, hammering it into you kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say to start things off. Should I just pick somebody or go around the,
Well, I think,
or
how about going around and asking each person to locate themselves,
sure.
you know, where they are, and then to speak if they wish to answer or address the questions of how they're trying to integrate spirituality into their work, their life and their work. Be great to hear. Or spirituality and politics, if you want to bring it to bring the social world in as well. Do you want to lead that, Elaine? Just
Sure. I mean, I can go around on my Zoom just picking, and I'm happy to just read out the questions quickly if that helps. Obviously, you don't necessarily have to specifically answer a question, but if I can just reread them if that's helpful. How are you trying to introduce a spiritual dimension into your work? What has been effective for you? Where have you encountered obstacles? And what kinds of support can we give each other to do this work after this last difficult year? So Duncan, you're the first person I see on my screen, if that's okay.
Sure. So I'm Duncan Holloman, and I am in Gloucester, Massachusetts. I just recently moved from Cambridge, and looking out my window, I can see the harbor, and I can see fishing boats, and I can see the sunlight reflecting on the water, and seagulls, and all kinds of wonderful things that I moved up here to find. And Elaine, I wanted to respond first to what you were saying about learning the piano, because I would say one of the really important things in my life currently is that I'm studying singing. And I was a professional singer and actor for a number of years, and then I had to stop because I had some serious vocal trouble, and my voice was just not working as it needed to, and there were some reasons for that. But after all of these years, I found a teacher who is teaching me precisely the way that you were fantasizing that your piano teacher would teach you. That is, I need to learn to get out of my own way, to free up my willingness to let whatever sounds emanate from my body that nature intends for me to make. And I'm singing much better now with a teacher like this. So that's been truly wonderful. And there are such teachers. But it took me many, many months to trust that what she meant was true, right? That she actually wanted to hear the sound of my voice rather than a voice that I had learned over the years to manufacture. And I was really good at manufacturing a certain sound. It's just that it wasn't actually my voice. And that reminds me of a talk that I gave to the Washington State Bar Association several years ago when I lived in Seattle. And it was called Being a Lawyer is Being a Person. And it turned out that it was actually one of the most popular talks that they have on their video collection. And I think it speaks to what we're here to talk with each other about, is how is it that we can be human beings and be lawyers. After I graduated from law school and sort of struggled to find my way as an attorney, I gave up. I couldn't do it. I couldn't find a way to really be the human being that I am. So I went into psychotherapy, became a psychotherapist and a contemplative spiritual practitioner, many, many years of Buddhist practice. And now I'm going over to Christian contemplative practice. So that's one of the ways in which I bring my own spiritual practice to my work, is through my work as a psychotherapist. And I'm really looking for ways to bring a relationally oriented contemplative practice into the law. What's it like for me in this moment to be in relationship with you? So I'm really looking at conflict, looking at trauma, looking at how it is that the human beings who are engaged with one another in legal practice can get some training in how to do that better. So maybe that's too much for me, but happy to be with you guys.
Thanks, Duncan. Yeah, a lot of what you said is really, really interesting, actually. It'd be good to speak further with you, actually. But thank you very much for that. Bruce, you're next on the agenda, if that's okay.
I'm Bruce Peterson. I'm a retired judge in Minneapolis and have been with PISLAP for quite a few years and was on the executive committee for quite a number of years. And I really value these calls because already my head is spinning about the things I've heard. Those statements from both were very helpful. I think I'll just collect my thoughts at this point and maybe I'll chime in a little later.
Sorry, Bruce, just getting used to this emceeing. Thank you. Ken, you're next on the...
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very happy to be here as always. I'm situated in my backyard in White Plains, New York, where we're fortunate to have a sunny, warm day. My story is long, but I'm going to try to cut it really short for time considerations. I was a litigation lawyer, and like some other people here, I couldn't make it work with my spirit and soul and psyche, although I did spend the last 15 years in a trial practice litigation job up until last June, and I retired. So right now I'm not working at all, although working on my golf game is more confounding than working in the law, where the rules stay the same and the golf game is different every day. But I'm very interested in the work of this group. Obviously, I've been involved on and off for several years, and would like to find a way to, in my retirement, actually do something useful. Parenthetically, I am doing anti-racism work as a volunteer in a group called Showing Up for Racial Justice, which does engage obviously in a lot of legalistic issues. And I am developing more of my own spiritual practice through modalities such as A Course in Miracles and Buddhist practice and related things of that nature. So I'm very, in sum, I'm very interested in connecting more with the group and the individuals. I'm still finding my way in my post-litigation life and basically trying to find a way to make a contribution that actually reflects who I am and what I care about and how I want to work in the world, in between playing golf and tennis and so on. So thank you for my opportunity to participate.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks very much. Nanette, you're next on the row. I don't know whether you want to speak or wait till the end. Or...
Sure,
Yeah.
that's all right. I can say a few words. So hello, everyone. I'm Nanette Shore, and I'm based in New York City. I know most folks here, but not everyone. So I'm been involved in PISLAP since its very beginning, back in the mid-90s. In my work, I work with, I represent clients in a organization whose mission is to fight poverty and seek racial, social, and economic justice. And so I represent a lot of low-income clients, and I also supervise attorneys there. And I was, just thinking about, in light of what folks have shared so far, how do I bring spirituality into my work? And I think, just on a very basic level, I do think that I try to ask myself before each interaction with a client or with or any kind of work-related matter that I'm dealing with the attorneys I work with, is how can I bring interest into this? How can I bring a sense of appreciation of other? How can I bring love in some way into this interaction? How can I be open and live into that other human being's reality? And I think for me that is, I think, the main way that I do try to bring spirituality into the work. And it's of course challenging because you don't always have the time to do that, or I think I don't have the time to do that. But I think the answer is I probably always have the time and always should have the time to do that. And I also think it's important to try to create an open space for clients that I work with to speak about things that are close to their heart. And so I try to open up the conversation beyond just the immediate legal issue that the person's calling about. And sometimes it's possible, of course, and sometimes it isn't. And I did appreciate the reference to looking at trauma as well. I think that that's something that's really becoming very important in the legal culture, and I think is a doorway. I think the focus on trauma-informed lawyering, which we hear about a lot, there's a lot of trainings on that, is a way to, it's a different language, but it's a language that does open the door for spirituality and more heart in legal relationships. So those are my thoughts for now. And thank you, Elaine.
Thanks, Nanette. Kim van der Heijden is next. Hi, Kim.
Hello. I am in Oakland, California, in my art studio. I'm not a lawyer. I'm an artist who does artwork about justice. And I became involved with PISLAP some years ago after meeting Peter and incorporating some of his writing and the ideas from his writing into some work that I was doing. And around that time, it also became very important to me to weave a spiritual dimension into my artwork. And for me, the spiritual dimension and the justice dimension are the same thing. When you're coming at it from the perspective of somebody who's been through law school, I think those don't necessarily equate. But for me, it always was the justice and the spiritual together coming into my artwork. And things that I've done to weave that in are looking at how to fit prayer in the spaces in between. I'm a mother of 3. I have a greeting card line that is sold throughout the country that I have to keep up with. There's some small staff with that. And it's been really, really hard to juggle everything. And also as part of the weaving in of the spiritual aspect of things and all of the learning about new ways of looking at justice and how to participate in that in our society, I've become more and more involved in other groups. There's a group called Pax Christi that's part of the Catholic Church. That's a social justice organization. And I've become very involved in that. I'm part of the Gandhi team, which studies nonviolence and peacekeeping. And I'm part of a meditation community, a Christian contemplative meditation community. And I'm also work with there's a huge problem with homelessness in the area. And I try to do advocacy work for that. And juggling all of these things has been really difficult. And during the pandemic, I didn't need to drive my children to all of the many places. And I was driving about 3 hours a day. And I filled all of that time up with all this other work. And I have commitments to it now. And now the driving has returned. And I'm in a terrible time crunch at the moment. So weaving in the spiritual has been very rewarding. At the moment, I'm struggling, but I think it's part of this transition. And the most effective thing for me has been my spiritual director. And so throughout this time, I've met monthly with a spiritual director who's been very good. And if anybody who has an opportunity to do that, that's something that kind of crosses many different faiths. And I highly recommend it. Also the groups that I've been a part of, they have been very important. And I guess that's all I have for right now.
Thanks, Kim. I always appreciate the artist perspective. I think that's part of the helping lawyers loosen up that way of thinking as well. I think that interdisciplinary conversation is like really powerful. So I've appreciated the different conversations I've had with you. So Subi, I think, is next.
Yeah, well, am I audible? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So basically, I'm a law student in the second year, and I have like 5-year course. So I would say, like, after studying law for 2 years, as what I've concluded is law is it does not exist in isolation. That is to say that it is basically, interdisciplinary, where it intersects with different discourses. So recently I've been into religion and spirituality like since my, I won't say early age, but since 4 to 5 years, like I developed interest, like what is spirituality? Because and I got interested into such questions after contemplating on the questions like what is the purpose or meaning of life, and why do I do certain things which I wanted to do or want to do in the future. So these are the questions that interested me into knowing more about what is spirituality in actual sense. And now since I'm a law student, so I just had an interest in studying more about like what is an intersection, how does it looks like when law interacts with spirituality. Because as per my understanding of spirituality, it is something, if it comes in confluence with law and spirituality, then this is something which can definitely bring about revolution, because spirituality is all about including the human perspectives. It make person more humanitarian. And since I also like want to be a human rights lawyer in the future, so I think having more understanding of these core issues, how does it actually work, the intersection of law and spirituality, I can certainly bring about change in the society. So that was something that interested me, joining this, because I recently, about 2 to 3 days before only, I just found out about the center, and I read about in the brochure all the main objectives of this, and this is something that really inspired me to learn more about all this. And so as of conclusion, I would say like for law as of now, like if we try to include spirituality and into law, then that is something that can bring about a revolution. Because as of now, since I'm also interested in policy and governance, and I try writing about social legal issues, especially focused in India. So what I see as as per my observations, what I see is that we do focus on implementing laws, making legislations. However, what we do fail to understand is that we have to also make society understand how law works, and how we have responsibility on us to follow these legislations. And I think if we make people spirituality be brings into that focus, and we make people aware, then I think that is something that can bring about a revolution in the legal industry. So yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Well, if I could just jump in, that's wonderful. And would you locate yourself? Where are you, and maybe where are you in law school?
Right. So I'm from Jhansi, that is a UP state in India. But I study in Lucknow, that is again another city in UP itself. And it's a 5-year integrated BLLB course. And I'm in the second year of my law school. Thank you.
Thanks, Subi. Thanks so much. Rebecca, you're next on the circle.
Great. Hi, everybody. This is the first of this meeting with this group that I've been able to make it to, but I know I've connected with a few of you in different ways through particularly the Integrated Lawyers group on Facebook. So it's good to see you and it's good to meet the rest of you. I'm Rebecca Preen. I am currently living in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I realized that I just completed my 20th year of practicing law and that it has taken all 20 of those years to do what Elaine spoke to, which was figure out what that looks like for me in a way that is actually a fit. I have cast it aside a couple times, I've come back. I'm also a 20-year spiritual practitioner. I've practiced in a lineage of Kashmir Shaivism. And so when those things started to come together, they've always been together actually, because I started my spiritual practice while I was in law school. But how they've come to how I've practiced law is that when I started my own practice 12 years ago, one, I used my own spiritual practice for being in that space and being present to what was happening with the overwhelm of opening a new practice. But two, it began to inform my view on how business operated, what the dynamics in business were, and what law's role in that was. So how did it relate to the rest of what my clients were doing in their business? And how could I explain that to them in a way that they value? That wasn't that, like Elaine was talking about, that wasn't the rule-based, yes, you do this. And so what began as a way for me to show up for myself and then for my clients in full presence, right? To bring my full presence to what my clients were doing, which they noticed and commented upon. And then it has evolved to also informing how I explain law and the benefits of those aspects and working with them in the business. Primarily, I break it back down to what's the energetics of law, like what's the quality that law brings to what they're encountering. So, you know, is it that it's protective? Is it that it's clarity? Is it that it's like figuring out what a good boundary is? Things like that. So I'd say that's how it's kind of over the last 12 years has evolved to speaking in that kind of languaging of qualities and energy and that of outcomes that my client wants, as opposed to these are the rules and we're going to apply them. And that way, what I've found is that we can take the form of what they're creating and actually create the things from the law, or pick and choose the things that are most beneficial for them for what that form of their work presents. I was also laughing again, something that Elaine said, because I don't think it's a coincidence that I'm in the US and work on trademarks, copyrights, and contracts. And so it just dawned on me today as Elaine was speaking that it's not really a coincidence for me that I probably chose the like most flexible part of the law that you possibly could, that gives people like the widest range of choices in how to use it for their creativity and what they're building in the world. And then just recently, I have integrated actual practice with my clients, primarily in two contexts. One, in creating their own contracts, whether that be the contract, their client contracts, or whether that be a partnership agreement. And two, in resolving conflict. And I have to say that it's been much more successful in terms of clients wanting to do it, getting great benefit from it, really enjoying the dimension that it brings to them getting clear on what the terms and desired relationship elements are to their contracts when they're creating something. So when they're creating their client contract, or they're creating a collaboration or a partnership agreement, than when they're in conflict. The challenge there has been a bit that everyone wants other people to be very conscious and see their point of view, but very few people in that. It's been much harder to encourage clients to be that person themselves in terms of viewing the other side of the conflict with the same level of compassion and insight and forgiveness, or the things that they are talking about wanting to bring to the dynamic. So that has not been, it hasn't been as fruitful in terms of clients wanting to engage in spiritual practice as part of that conflict resolution, or that they've been satisfied with kind of engaging in the process. So if anyone else has done that with clients, I would love to hear what your experience is.
Thanks, Rebecca. I feel like I could have an individual conversation with everybody. So, and I
Happy
remember
to have individual conversations with any of you.
Yeah, I remember as well that you did soul portraits. I'm remembering now. If is that you? Am I right?
Yes, yes, we connected over that, right? So I'm also an artist, and I do it as part of my spiritual practice and with clients in a mentoring capacity, not with my law clients.
Maybe in the future.
Rebecca,
I don't know. I haven't figured out how to integrate that part into the law practice yet. But I do work with other professionals in mentoring them on how to bring all of these diverse aspects of themselves into their profession. No lawyers have taken me up on that, but I have worked with accountants and financial advisors and doctors and whatnot.
So Rebecca, I just wanted to check with you if you know about Kim Wright's work with conscious contracts and
I do. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Kim's how I got connected to all of this.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks, Rebecca. Bonnie, you're next, if that's okay.
Sure. I think I've changed what I was going to say about 6 times because every person has inspired me to think of another thing that I wanted to share. But I was thinking about sort of what Elaine was saying and kind of how did I first come to this idea? And I think it's just this innate desire to see justice. I was born on the day of the Kent State riot, and to know that was kind of like how I came into the world, to see that there was something so unjust that took place. So I started working in the field of government ethics as an attorney. That was my first basically my first law job, aside from a few others before that. But my primary field has been government ethics. I worked in New York City, and I met Nanette when I worked in New York, first for the Conflicts of Interest Board, and then for the judiciary. And then I decided to move to Florida and kind of think more about the family side of myself. And I started working with a government ethics expert here in Sarasota, and then kind of got to move out into all different areas of how to integrate the arts and politics together. And then also after becoming a mother, I started to realize, in addition to teaching women in the law, that I was experiencing my own some kind of discrimination based on the fact that I was a parent. And I wanted to speak to that and take that privilege that I have of being able to be aware of that, because I was hearing about it from so many other mothers as well, to look at how the inherent conflicts of work and home need to be addressed. And so I created a documentary where I went to Wales and I met with people there who did have a whole year of maternity leave, but yet still face discrimination. So I want to sort of unpack this idea that just because the US we don't have paid leave, which is a huge problem, but we also don't have the infrastructure that's needed to really support parents. So the fact that that family is now being put into infrastructure is really exciting and interesting to me. And the documentary will be shown in a couple of weeks as part of an international film festival for Central Florida. So I'd love to share that with all of you. And I'm hoping to do some more screenings of the film. But the idea is, how can we really create that work-life balance that we need? And how can we support parents? Because there's so much conflict, as Kim was talking about. I was really resonating with what Kim was talking about, where we got, so many hours of our life back in the pandemic, and how can we take those lessons? I'm still in my home, and having experienced that, it's like, how do you put that genie back in the bottle where everyone's going to then return to life, which was supposedly normal, but really was broken? And how can we move past that? So anyone who wants to talk about that at any point, I'd love to talk to all of you. So thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. Yeah, that's really interesting as well. I'd love to see I don't know if the film will be freely available, will it? Or is it
It's going to be a 3-day festival where you can watch it at any time. And then I'm going to do a local screening here, but it would be available to everybody. It's in 2 weeks.
What's it called? Sorry.
It's called Funnel of Dreams. It's a 24-minute documentary. Funnel of Dreams.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. As a
you.
recent new mother myself,
Yes, I know.
resonate with a lot of that. Cara, you're next.
Hi, that sounds fascinating, Bonnie. I'd love to talk to you further about that. I'm Cara Perry, and I'll try and be brief here to let others go. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I'm in Bridgewater, New Jersey. It is also beautiful here, and I wish I was outside like Ken, but our backyard is under construction right now. So this will have to do. I came to PISLAP through Elaine, and forever and ever grateful for that. I was a practicing attorney at a large New Jersey law firm, very traditional practice for several years, and then worked in big pharma for 14 in corporate law department, doing complex contracts. And I just in the chat was telling Bonnie I was part-time since my first son was born. He's 20 now and have 3 children. And so it's that whole balance, call it whatever you will, is something that I lived and breathed and and have a lot of opinions and things on, but for another day. But I never felt quite, there was always an itch in my soul, I say, that it would just, the corporate structure and negotiating in traditional fashion just never sat right with me. I had, like many people, wanted to go to law school, to be a public interest lawyer and do social justice. So Subi, stay on your path if you can. And my journey took me elsewhere, which I have gratitude for. I released my corporate job with much, much gratitude in September of last year, having despite the the terrible things about the pandemic, it gave me a chance to pause and reflect. And I did a program called Lifebook, where you consciously look at 12 areas of your life, including spirituality. It transformed my life, my outlook, and I became a yoga teacher in December of last year. I recently became a laughter yoga leader, which, if nobody's tried laughter yoga, I highly, highly suggest it. It's a wonderful way to release tension and to just get a lot of health benefits. And I think that I'm now calling myself the laughing, lunging lawyer. I wish all lawyers would laugh a little bit more. So that's sort of my little mission, to get everybody to laugh a little bit more. And it's not reliant on jokes or humor or comedy. It's about laughing exercises and breathing. And so I've been on this journey. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. Part of me was like, I'll never practice again. And then I, through Elaine, met Kim Wright, and this whole integrative law community and feel like I've like finally landed home, which feels beautiful and amazing. And I'm taking the certification class now, and that's been really great. You have to work with a client. And so, I forget who was speaking before. Working with a client has really been interesting. And I'm working with two friends who've been friends for 25 years and are now entering into a partnership. And the old me would have been like, are you crazy? Why would you do that? The whole fear-based training that we have, and using the, Alala Linda Alvarez's Discovering Agreement and the touchstone and the ACD process to just, create this safety, this safe container for this friendship, this beautiful friendship, to bring in values and, spirituality and love and, all contracts are really based on relationships. And so to just really bring that in and practice that just feels right, and it feels good, and it feels easy to talk to the clients. And I have a call with them at 2 after this. It's just been a really beautiful and different way to practice that I didn't even know. And my real mission, though, I think, is to try and really bring this more to law schools, and I'm working with Amanda. I think she had to drop on her mentorship program. I'm working this summer with Jacqueline Harani on the summer clinic. I'm trying to really learn how to teach conscious contracts course a little more. And so, I had no idea this integrative law movement existed. And there was a part of me that does what I wish that I had, because I feel like I could see how it can still be integrated even in the big pharma. But that's not my journey, and what's my journey. But I really feel like it's sort of at the law school level that we have such an opportunity to bring these concepts. And I feel like there's eagerness there, because I've done a lot of work with my law school, Seton Hall Law School, and was able to set up a scholarship there with gratitude for my job that I had, but for students that have some financial needs and want to do public interest and social justice. And when I go to some of these alumni events, like when I speak about I'm interested in health and wellness and integration of that into the law, and that I'm a yoga teacher, there's just such like excitement about that, and people asking me about that, and I talk about PISLAP. It's actually in the article that I said I wanted to get more involved in PISLAP. And even for me to put that sort of out there, where a lot of people, alumni, to spirituality and law, I would have been afraid of that before. And now I want to tell people. And so I guess I'm still working on integrating it all together and figuring out what I'm doing, but I'm so grateful for this community. And I feel like the time is ripe for more people to hear the message. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Cara. That was great. And yeah, it's been so nice to meet you too. And yeah, you sound like you've had a really powerful journey. So I would love to talk more with you as well. But I keep going to Maitreya.
Hi, I'm Maitreya Badami. I'm in Chico, California, sitting on my bed in my virtual courtroom, and there is someone blowing leaves right outside my window, which is why I've been like leaning forward to try to catch this. This is such a wonderful, I got involved in PISLAP just last year. I practiced criminal defense law for 16 years, then spent 7.5 years at the Northern California Innocence Project. So a 23-year criminal law career. I'm now in my 4th year teaching legal studies at Chico State University, which is an undergrad institution. Among the things I do in the legal studies program is I'm one of the supervising attorneys in our community legal information clinic. So I supervise clinical undergrads who are paralegal interns and in providing legal information to the community, free legal information. But my background, of course, is criminal law. And when somebody turned me on to PISLAP, I had known Peter. Peter hired me to teach an adjunct class at New College when I had my own private criminal practice, and I taught ethics, just 1 semester of ethics. And when somebody actually directed me to PISLAP and I saw that the name was spirituality, law, and politics, I thought that was an incredible thing for me, because that's like my favorite things that there are. I mean, I'm sort of obsessed with politics my whole entire life, since early childhood. I wanted to be a lawyer since someone told me what lawyer was. I wanted to help poor people. I was a poor people. And I like hearing about this trauma-informed stuff. I think I was drawn into criminal law because of my own personal trauma background. And it almost seemed like the only kind of law I really could do. But I've had a long spiritual journey alongside, but not integrated into my work. I did write an article for my church. Like, we have a church's little literary magazine. About 25 years ago, I wrote an article called Criminal Defense as Spiritual Practice. And a lot of people called me out on the theology of it, but more people than that really appreciated the personal dimension, the energetic discussion of it. And so now I have a variety of things. I really wanted to connect with a lot of people. I agree with several have mentioned, like everything I'm hearing, I feel like I found my people. I found my people. I have a reading next week with Amanda, who did get off the call, but everything people are talking about are things that I care about and I'm passionate about. And I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up. So I'm in the 4th year of a 6-year tenure clock, and I'm not sure I'm going to make it because I haven't figured out how to do the academic scholarship part. It seems like an obvious fit with my personal passions and interests, but I haven't really been able to pick a line and follow through on it. And I would love it if there are people who have any interest in mentoring that particular dimension. Awesome, Peter. I'd love to talk to you about it. I'm aces in teaching and service, off the charts. And also Lizzie Latimer, who is a criminal defense attorney here, who many of you know, she's the one who turned me on to PISLAP. She and I are in the visioning process of establishing a small pilot along the lines of the Georgia Justice Project to serve the North State region, which is a justice desert. That's how I refer to it. We don't even have a public defender office within 3 counties, and that in itself is somewhat desert-like, but we don't even have one of those. So those are the things. I have many interests, also have children, also, teens now, all of the things. I feel really grateful to have found you people. So thanks.
Thanks so much, Maitreya. We've just realized that the time is obviously ticking away. And so I think there's 3 people who have yet to share. If people are okay to stay on for a little bit longer, like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we can keep going. I hope that's okay. So Yudong, I think you're next. If you want to take maybe, 3-4 minutes, or does that sound okay? I know I'm probably not the best MC. Is that okay? Okay. Yudong. Yudong, are you okay to speak next?
Yeah,
okay.
I am. I'm actually in another meeting, but it's okay. So my name is Udong. I'm based in College Park, Maryland. I'm at my house right now. And basically, I think it's quite interesting that people are talking about integrating spirituality with their legal practice. For me, I am an aspiring law student. I actually want to be a lawyer as well. But even before that, I have realized very early on that you have to, have the spiritual dimension first. And then that's how you begin to see how law and other more technical dimensions can come together in this, more integrated and human-centric picture. And I have been contributing to the spiritual dimension by basically, I have been attending, organizing different immigrant justice events. And basically, I believe it's important that we begin treating immigrants as people. That's one thing that I think we really have ignored, whether under Trump administration or Biden administration. Right now at the border, the situation is really bad. And that just convinced me even more that I really needed to be an immigration lawyer. In terms of spirituality, because I'm not as experienced, seasoned as many of other people here. I would just say briefly, I am influenced heavily by Taoism. I believe in, balance. I believe that things have this connection, things are interconnected in a way. And that's why we have to build a community that is based on this interconnection, that is not based on competitive, individualism, like trying to compete, right, for dominance. I think that's just very bad. And honestly, in our law, we have too much of that. That's why we kind of want to open up this new possibility of a spiritual integration in our law, politics, things that, I believe are critical to our culture and to the building of our culture. So yeah, that's pretty much all I could think of in terms of the work that I've been doing that fosters spiritual awareness, immigrant justice issues. I believe it's a pretty important dimension because it really deals with people. It's unlike any other political arena, right? It doesn't deal with a certain policy, although politicians like to just break it down into policy. No, it's about people. These people, they're hurt. They were detained, separated from their families, all these unimaginable traumas. Someone has to do the healing. And that's part of why we're doing our healing circle. And it's going to be officially launched, I believe, end of June, if everything works out as planned. And yeah, we just really look forward to having this opportunity to heal, to actually apply the spiritual dimension to not necessarily law, but at least, people who have been hurt by unjust laws. So I guess in that sense, it is also applying spirituality to our law. Thank you.
Thanks, Udong. Thank you very much. Lena Chon. Hi, Lena.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Elaine. Hi, it's nice to be back. My name is Lena Chai now, and I'm based in Los Angeles, California. I'm a lawyer by profession, I guess. I've worked in various industries like finance and politics and journalism, and I'm definitely on the boat of figuring out my career as well, as many of you are. And the last couple years have been very impactful for me, which is kind of why I haven't been as present with this community. But 2 years ago, my husband had a major stroke while I was 4 months pregnant and had my baby. And thankfully, my husband is well on his way to recovery. And then shortly after that, my mother passed away. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind for me, but that's life, right? And in the midst of all that, I'm figuring out what to do with my career. I've never really felt fully at home in any of the jobs I did. A key moment was when a former boss and a client told me that I am being too nice to the people. I need to stop being so nice to them. So that was a major red flag for me to get out. So right now I've just been doing a lot of reading, and for me, yes, I think it was Subi that said the law does not exist in isolation, and I don't think anything we do exists in isolation. None of us live in isolation either. So for me, the last few years especially have been about integrating not just spirituality and law and politics, but really just everything, right? Motherhood, parenthood, wifehood, and everything else that I'm doing. And I've been reading a lot about the universe and big history, like what is all this about? How did this universe even begin, and where are we now? Where are we headed? And I'll just leave you all with this one piece. I read this blog post this morning, a beautiful blog post about monarch butterflies. And I don't know, you all probably know monarch butterflies have this like crazy migration process. They will travel from Canada all the way down to Mexico. And the most fascinating part for me was that it's actually not an individual butterfly making the entire journey. It's actually multiple generations. So a butterfly will live 2-3 weeks, and then further generations will then finish their journey down south or up north. And I just thought that was really fascinating. And so each butterfly does its own part just on faith that the rest of the journey will be completed by others. And no one butterfly will get to see or experience the entire journey, but just feel satisfied, hopefully, in knowing that it's doing its part. And I think it's a very good analogy for what we do, because I have been feeling a little bit dissatisfied and unsettled about, like, what am I doing? What is everyone here doing? And I think maybe it's a lesson for me to think that I just do my part and that's it. That's nothing more, nothing less, and just have faith that others will carry the baton, and that just have satisfaction in knowing that I'm doing my part. And you all here are part of this journey. And I feel I feel like all of you guys feel that this is like my people, my tribe. And it's great to see all of you doing such good work and carrying on baton, so to speak. I'm complete.
Thanks, Lena. That reminded me of something Polly Higgins, the Earth lawyer UK. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she passed away the year before last, and she did great work on ecocide and earth law. But she always said, you know, this is not, I know I won't see the end in my lifetime. And she actually passed away a couple of years ago. And so thank you so much. Sylvia Clute is next. Hi, Sylvia.
Yeah, thank you. I am loving what all of you are saying. It's very exciting. So I started practicing law back when in law school we were taught to go for the jugular and concede nothing. So these conversations were not even a remote possibility at that time. And that all changed for me in 1987 when I read A Course in Miracles and discovered there are two models of justice, vengeance and love. I knew what justice as vengeance was. That's what I did. Justice as love, I didn't have a clue, but I've spent over 30 years figuring that out. So now that's called unitive justice. We have a theory for it. We do a lot of training on it. And in 2018, I met two men who'd been incarcerated for over 20 years each for first-degree murder. And while they were in prison, they discovered justice as love. They transcended that punitive system because they knew that anything in that system couldn't save them and they were going to get out. So they simply in that petri dish discovered justice as love. So now since we've met, we're hooked at the hip, and we're working on a program right now among a number of things I'm doing, but it is a training program for men and women who are incarcerated to teach them justice as love. So when they come out, they can take that back to the communities where they'll be returning to. Paul and Prince say they can go back and be the solution to the problems they used to cause. And they are very credible messengers for justice as love. So that's a big thing that I'm doing right now. Also writing my book I've been working on for years on unitive justice theory. I think that'll be done this year. And I have a very exciting thing happening tomorrow night. Another attorney in Virginia, he's actually the best known civil rights attorney in Virginia. He and I are doing a presentation on unitive justice for the Virginia Museum of History and Culture. And it's open to the public. They say that they have sent invitations to all of the bar members. So this will be very interesting to see if there's any interest among those bar members. And also, most of them I would have had no contact with. I stopped practicing law in 2003 because as I understood justice as love, it was killing me to stay in that. So that will be very interesting, but just a lot, I don't know, always more things to do than there are hours in the day. It's very exciting, very rewarding, and so much better than what I did when I was going for the jugular and conceding nothing. So that's it.
Sylvia, would you say a word about the training you may do for PISLAP next spring?
Yes, so I've been invited with another person to do the presentation on the series of presentations that PISLAP is sponsoring. Our particular one will be on law and spirituality. So I will be doing this program with a lawyer, a law professor from India, Dr. Param. His name is longer than that. but I would not pronounce it well. Anyway, he is very much into law and spirituality. He's teaching it in law school. Actually, he's now teaching it around the world. So he and I will be talking about unitive justice, and he's going to be talking about law and spirituality in the way that he has come to formulate it, which they're both very compatible, but they're like looking through different windows into the same house. And so we're very excited about that. And really, I feel very honored and privileged to have the opportunity to do that.
I just wanted to mention, and you're also quite possibly leading a training next spring with the two returning citizens
Right.
that you described earlier. If we may be able to set up a program, if people are traveling by then, to go to Richmond, Virginia, and go to this program that you're leading on unitive justice and transforming criminal law.
Yes, so this is, who would ever think that the area for law and spirituality to take root would be through our prisons and jails. But I'm discovering, working with these two men, that it is like fertile territory. I'm very excited about when that training gets into prisons and jails, that we'll begin to see the impact of that on a bigger scale than anything else I can imagine doing. So so it would be a training program for a couple of days in Richmond, that's where I am, Richmond, Virginia, with a number of returning citizens who are involved in all of this, and just to meet them, to work with them, to see what we're talking about through their perspective and through their experience of the legal system. It's amazing. I mean, it's been life transforming for me. And I know if you come, it will be for you as well. It's an incredible perspective that I just feel blessed to have a window into.
Thanks, Sylvia. Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm really interested to hear more about unitive justice. Actually, it's just been a term that I've heard only recently, surprisingly. I think that's everybody on the call, actually, unless I've missed, I hope I haven't missed somebody.
Brad Ross, we missed Brad.
Oh, sorry, Brad, sorry. I thought actually you'd spoken. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I kind of feel like I have spoken a little bit. So much of what others have said has kind of echoed in my experience. And I know we're coming towards the end, so I'm just going to keep it pretty brief. The intersection between law and spirit has been like a real theme in my life, as it has been for many of you. I was all gearing up to go to law school when I decided, after seeing J. Krishnamurti in college, that I needed to go to India first, and that took me on a 25-year journey before returning to actually go to law school, where I fell in love with mediation and whatnot. But I thought I'd just very briefly give a vignette to describe that kind of captures the intersection. I was interning for a federal district court judge in New York, the Southern District of New York, years ago when I was in law school, and they had a reception for the summer interns, and the appellate judges were there also, and my judge introduced me to then appellate judge, now Supreme Court Justice Judge Sotomayor, and we were chatting, and I said something about my interest in the evolution of consciousness, and she said to me, "What do you mean by the evolution of consciousness?" And at that moment, and I was just about to, and we can all see that if we've ever, getting that kind of inquiry from Judge Sotomayor, it's like definitely put you on the spot, but I was very eager to jump in. And as I was about to start explaining, something happened in the room where she was pulled away, and I never got a chance to speak with her about it. So that's kind of like a snapshot of, for me, the interplay between spirit and the law. It's an unfolding story, the kind of punchline of which has not yet been told yet, but this is a kind of an ongoing conversation here in this group, and so I really appreciate the opportunity. And I'll kind of leave it at that.
we don't know Justice Sotomayor over here, Brad. So would she have received that conversation well or not well?
Oh, I'm sorry. She's a U.S. Supreme Court justice now. So she was then an appellate court justice. She was just in the ring below that with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. So now she's a U.S. Supreme Court judge, which is, she's a justice, I should say. And so she's at the top of the legal hierarchy in the United States, really. So she's from the Bronx, and she's, I'm in Manhattan, and she's, she was just like really looking at me with all of her intellect, with all of her kind of like the Bronx kind of streets. She grew up in the projects, I think, in the Bronx. So like she brought all of her experience and looked at me with those kind of piercing eyes, piercing intellect, piercing kind of street smarts, and was like, what do you mean by the evolution of consciousness? And in the context of these kind of halls of justice, to be bringing in the question of what does it mean for consciousness to evolve was just like, I think, a very poignant kind of moment and opportunity to kind of bring those worlds together. And so I don't know what she would have said. I think that because she comes along the side of the evolution of the U.S. Constitution, rather than being a strict a strict constructionist, if that's the way to phrase it, I think she would be amenable to or interested in this kind of idea of that consciousness does evolve, that we become more unitive and more complex as we take in greater spheres of awareness in our lives and in our practices in various ways. So I think she would have been it would have been a really interesting discussion, and unfortunately it just didn't take place. I don't know if that was responsive to your question, Elaine.
Yeah, no, it was. Thank you. So will I think it's time probably to go, everybody. I don't know if Peter or Nanette want to say a final couple of words, or
Nanette, can you just tell people about our upcoming calls, because they're good. They're going to be good.
Yeah, so we have a number of things coming up. So thank you so much, Elaine, for leading that, and to everyone for sharing. It was really wonderful to be with you, and just to have this more open time. Our next few get-togethers are planned calls. We have Dave Nata on June 9th, who's a lawyer, activist, cartoonist, interesting thinker from London. Some of you have met Dave. He's been a participant in our calls. So I think that'll be great. That's June 9th. And then we have a call on tentatively July 7th with Farsh Narden, who has also been on some of our calls, and Farsh is from Germany, and we'll have some interesting perspectives on law and government and spirituality and just her own take on things. So those are some things coming up. And then just as a heads up, we'll be sending out an email. We're actually going to be doing sort of a virtual mini conference in the end of September, beginning of October, which we're calling a PISLAP intensive. And that's going to be spread over a 5-day period with 11 to 1 each day. That's one of the panel that Sylvia mentioned that she's doing with Dr. Param on spirituality and law will be a part of that. I don't know if we have time now to sketch out the whole model for you, but we're really excited about it. We'll be announcing it soon, and there will be a virtual cocktail party in there as well, so that we have time to talk with each other. Of course, it's a little hard to bridge all the time differences, all the way from the West Coast of the United States through India, South Africa, Europe. So we're going to do the best we can to try to make it at times that people can try to make, but we will record if not. So that's everything I wanted to mention right now. So thanks everyone for being here, and be well, and talk with you all soon.